It can only be attributable to human error.
You're entering paranormal.
He meddled in things that should be built. He meddled in things.
Where will we go next? This phantom from another time.
No one, Mr. Muller.
That's it, man. Game over, man. Game over.
That is one big pile of shit.
Hi, I'm Alex Kaiju,
I'm Jasmine with
I'm Eli Watson.
and you're listening to
Cryptid.
Campfire!
Woohoo! Hey everybody, and welcome back to Cryptid Campfire. We're still in quarantine, still locked up, doing our best to stay safe, and so we're coming through the microphones on the internet to bring you the Cryptid Campfire.
Now, today's creature that we're talking about has not always been considered a cryptid. It really did exist at one point, not too long ago, actually. It's now recognized as extinct, but people claim to have seen, and there is a term that I've mentioned in the past, Lazarus taxon. Lazarus coming from the man that Jesus is said to have raised from the dead. Paleontologists Carl Flessa and David Jablonski coined this term for organisms that reappear after their presumed extinction. Now, the Tasmanian tiger, which we're talking about today, is not officially a Lazarus taxon because it's not been proven as having reappeared. It's all speculation. But
So, according to Bernard Heuvelmans, aka the father of cryptozoology, who we've discussed on this podcast before, he defines cryptozoology as the scientific study of hidden animals. So that doesn't necessarily mean it has to be something as elusive and unconfirmed as Bigfoot. It could be something like the Tasmanian tiger, to where it went extinct and is now appearing or is being reported as being seen, but we can't seem to find it.
Mm-hmm.
now, I learned about this creature for the first time while we were talking to Nash Hoover on our show at the end of March. So this was all new information to me.
Yeah, it kind of was for me too. You know, I tried to seem cool and, I'd be like, "Oh yeah, I totally know about that." But deep down inside, I knew I was lying.
Oof.
But because this was/is possibly an actual animal, there is a lot of scientific information available that hopefully we have been accurate with in our own notes.
Mm-hmm. That was a challenge for today because this is something that has some actual facts behind it. So, it's not all hearsay and secondhand stories of something.
So, Jasmine, did you want to take it away about what this marsupial looks like?
Well, why don't we talk about where it is first? I mean, you can kind of tell just from the name Tasmanian Tiger. But at one time, the Tasmanian Tiger, whose scientific name is the Thylacine, also the Thylacinus cynocephalus is the full scientific name.
Whoa.
It used to be widespread over continental Australia, extending all the way north to New Guinea and south to Tasmania. But towards the end of its verified existence, it was confined to only Tasmania, where its presence has not been established conclusively for more than 80 years.
So, other names for the Tasmanian tiger, obviously Jasmine said thylacine, but there's also the Tasmanian wolf, as it has also been called. Now, I hear you asking, listener, through your headphones, why wolf and tiger? They are not related. They're from different, animal species. Well, I'll tell you. That's because the face of this carnivorous marsupial is canine-like, but the lower portion, kind of starting from the lower back all the way down, is striped like a tiger.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, it's a hybrid, but not a hybrid, as it is a marsupial, so it is neither.
Yeah, Thylacinus cynocephalus actually means dog-headed pouched dog.
Whoa. How many times can they fit dog in there?
It's like a double IPA. It's in there for good taste. Throw the extra dog in there. But a Tasmanian tiger, it is an interesting looking creature, because we actually have photos of it. So it has kind of like a dog head, but like almost like people describe it as having like a kangaroo neck, like a big muscular neck, and then kind of a thin body, thin legs, and then as Eli said, it's got tiger stripes starting from like the lower back to the tail. So it really is like a weird mishmash of various animals. It's like the platypus of Australia.
Its fur was yellow-brown to gray in color, and its tail is also distinct as well because a lot of people who claim to see it nowadays, one of the reasons that they claim it is a thylacine is because of the distinct look of the tail, which has a thick base and then tapers off to be skinnier at the end.
And so something unique about the pouches, as you may know, like kangaroos or koalas, who are all marsupials, the thylacine also had a pouch, but it was unique in the sense that both sexes had pouches.
That's so because usually it's with kangaroos and koalas, is it just the females that have the pouches normally?
I believe so, and that's for storing
babies and various snacks.
And various snacks, but Jasmine, you told me about another use for these pouches.
So supposedly, or I guess factually, depending on the source, males also had the back opening partial pouch to tuck away and protect its genitals.
Nice.
Essential, intelligent design right there.
Now, if we want to talk about its snout and jaws, it's very interesting to me. So I was able to see a video of one at a zoo back in like the 30s, and its jaws are very large and powerful. Some sites claim that the jaws were weak, but I don't want to believe that. I think the jaws were quite powerful. They had like 46 teeth, and their jaws open so wide. It's wild. When I saw the clip, it immediately reminded me of that scene in Beetlejuice where Barbara and Adam distort themselves, and she like opens her mouth and like sticks her eyes in her mouth. Like, do you remember that? That's what it looked like.
She's got the tongue that keeps like going in and out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think what you were saying there, what you kind of touched about their jaws being weak, I think because I was reading about the introduction of jackals to Australia, which I guess we'll get into in a little bit. But compared to, not a jackal.
A dingo.
Is it?
Dingo.
A dingo, yeah, that's what I meant. So compared to a dingo, I think the bite pressure was different, was less than a dingo, but I think they were saying that a Tasmanian tiger just never let go. And so that was its strength, was that it just never let go.
Like the locking jaw.
Yeah,
yeah, that's crazy because if you ever look at like I'd say like Discovery Channel, they do Shark Week, and they're like, oh, we're gonna look at shark bites, and so they make the jaw, they make like a mechanical rig, and then they put the PSI so it has the pressure, and they're like, oh, so let's see what a shark can bite through, and it's just like, oh, well, here's a steel cage, and it just crumples. They're like, oh, well, that's not good. and so you have, there's two types of attacking with Animal Kingdom. You have the animals that have the strong jaws that break bone, and then the ones that latch on. Because I want to say, I think I think we'll kind of get into it, but they might have been like pack hunters, the Tasmanian tigers.
Yeah.
They actually were not.
Really?
They hunted alone or in pairs most
Interesting.
often. They would stalk their prey for quite a long time to wear it down and kill it. Because the records from 1800s describe Thylacine as being extremely shy and solitary. So when it hunted, it was alone or just with one other, stalked the prey for a long time to wear it down and kill it. Usually the prey would be smaller kangaroos and other marsupials, such as small rodents and birds.
Nice. So Jasmine, you have some Aboriginal tales to tell us.
Well, yeah, I've got a couple just kind of side facts about the legend and history. There's not like a ton of legends because, again, this is like a real animal existed. Intact remains of thylacines estimated between 2,000 and 4,000 years old have been found in cave systems across the Nullarbor in South Australia. Fossils have been found in South Australia, Victoria, Western Australia, and Queensland. They were long known by the native Aboriginal people who called it many indigenous names. I didn't write any of them down, but it was first described by outsiders in the 17th century by explorers as a tiger-like beast or hyena dog creature.
Yeah.
Now, there are also rock paintings of thylacine-like animals from northern Australia, including the Kimberley region of Western Australia. They have also been found on walls or overhangs on exposed rock surfaces in the Upper East Alligator region of Death Adder Creek and Cattle River Crossing in the Northern Territory. If you asked me to point these places on a map, I would not be able to. There is evidence to suggest that the Aboriginal people in Tasmania did use the thylacine as a food source. And the thylacine was eventually described by science in 1808 as Didelphis cynocephala, or also as the zebra wolf, before
Whoa.
later being categorized by its modern taxonomy in 1824 by Dutch ornithologist and zoologist Conrad Jacob Temminck, I think. There's a lot of sciencey names and science words, but that's just to say that it took a long time for science to be like, this is what this is, and like nail it down.
And even then, science had a hard time because at first they called it a zebra wolf,
Yeah.
and then they're like, oh, actually, it's a dog-headed marsupial dog.
Yes. Important to note, I think, is that by the time white people showed up to Australia and to Tasmania, I think the Tasmanian tiger had already been extinct on the Australian continent, correct?
The mainland, yeah. So, due to climate change and competition from humans and dingoes, the thylacine was already considered extinct on the Australian mainland and New Guinea long before British colonization began in the early 1800s.
So, yeah, it was just on Tasmania. Yeah.
So the question is, I guess, what's a dingo?
Dingoes came to the Australian mainland from Southeast Asia about over 4,000 years ago. I didn't really get a ton of information on dingoes themselves, but I did read about how people have blamed the dingoes for the decrease in population of thylacines, but they're actually that responsible for it.
They hunt at different times, right?
I think so.
Because the dingo is a pack animal, correct? That hunts during the day, and thylacines were solitary and hunted mostly at night. So they're saying, at least according to what I read, that they weren't directly competing
So
with each
basically,
other.
it wasn't the dingoes, it was the humans. So there was a study done by Australian scientists that found that humans were primarily at fault. The researchers created a mathematical model of the interactions among predators and their prey in prehistoric Australia. So they were like making a hypothetical model. It included climate variables and possible changes in vegetation, both of which could affect populations. Then they experimented with the models to see which factor played the biggest role in the losses of the Tasmanian tiger. And this experiment actually involved the Tasmanian devil as well, because they are related, though they are two different things. And so basically they found that when prehistoric humans first came to Australia, the continent was full of large animals, the megafauna, Diprotodon, massive kangaroos, marsupial lions, and all of that.
Marsupial lions?
And then when they...
What?
Yeah. Those are
just these giant, bipedal lions with giant kicking feet, like kangaroos, that could run at 65 to 80 miles an hour.
But basically, when humans got there, they hunted all of those animals to death, part of a global event known as the megafauna extinction. So that overkill likely wiped out the megafauna in Australia. So while humans and dingoes would have hunted the Tasmanian tiger, model found that rapid human population increase would have reduced the animal's prey, essentially displacing them. So basically, everything I just said was summarized by what Eli said, being that they hunt at different times, but they hunt the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So the dingo in turn took the Tasmanian tiger and devil's ecological role as a top predator and scavenger.
Or did it?
Dun dun dun.
No, I think that's actually true. Whether or not the Tasmanian tiger is still alive.
Mm-hmm. But it's crazy because did you get anything on dingoes, Eli?
No, I didn't.
No.
Or Jasmine? You guys?
Mm-mm.
Either of you?
No.
Dingoes are crazy because they're like these basically like wild dogs in Australia, and from what I can gather, they hunt in packs. I think they're kind of like out here we have coyotes that live in the hills, and sometimes they come down and people see in their neighborhood. So it's kind of like that, I think, in Australia, to where sometimes you just like, oh, there's dingoes out, but they can be a little more feisty, So be careful out there.
I just
Because
think,
Hmm?
Go ahead.
I was gonna say because I don't know if you ever heard the classic phrase, "A dingo ate my baby."
No. Dang, that's savage.
Yeah, it happened in the '80s. This this baby went missing, and everyone was like, "Oh, what happened?" They're like, "I don't know. Maybe the parents, were kind of a bunch of losers, And it turns out the dingoes got the baby.
That's very unfortunate.
That's sad. I feel like everything in Australia is just like 10 times more savage than anywhere else.
Well, it's just this giant landmass that's just like we have more animals than you can shake a stick at, but they can shake a stick at you with a gun attached to it because they can kill you.
But one of the biggest reasons that the Tasmanian tiger ended up going extinct was because of humans. So not only secondary, like, oh, they're eating all of the prey, there's nothing for the Tasmanian tiger to eat, so they're all dying out. Humans were out there murdering them.
Yeah, so I got that these thylacines were being blamed in Tasmania as people were, colonizing it, and farmers were setting up and having their livestock out there, that thylacines were going after the sheep and chickens, supposedly. That's what they're being blamed for, and this resulted in bounties being put on their head. So, for instance, and I think this was just one company I only have information on one company, but I think there were more that were doing this as well. But the Van Diemen's Land Company started issuing bounties as early as 1830.
Mm-hmm.
And to put this in perspective of how soon the thylacine problem came into this particular history, the Van Diemen's Land Company was founded in 1825. So it took about 5 years for them to be like, we need to do something about thylacines. And of course, I don't think we can be for sure that 100% of the reason why these sheep were dying was because of thylacines. Who knows? It could have been the chupacabra for all we know.
The Australian chupacabra could have been a puckwudgie.
Yeah, right.
Made his way across the sea.
As far as prices went for collecting thylacines, between 1888 and 1909, the Tasmanian government was paying about £1, or this is obviously British currency, so £1 in their time, which would be equivalent to about £100 in our current day, per head, per thylacine, and 10 shillings per pup. So a lot of people were, going out trying to kill these things for money, And I got, all in all, they issued about 2,184 bounties.
Yeah, those prices you mentioned, I read that those were equivalent to about what did it say? Half a week's wages per scalp.
Oh, yeah, I bet. Yeah, people were making bank off of this. I also got that there was a big kind of epidemic that swept through Tasmania in terms for the fauna that lived there. And so that is another reason, because you have to think about dogs, people bringing their dogs over, and kind of like what happened in the Americas when people brought over diseases, that these dogs brought over diseases that crossed over to Tasmanian tigers and other wildlife, and a lot of them got sick and died.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, according to the Australian Zoologist, Volume 36, Number 1, an article written by Robert Paddle, that if it wasn't for the epidemiological reasons, that the thylacine extinction could have been prevented.
That's crazy.
Yeah, there was a
Yeah.
lot of factors that played into it. It was hunting, disease, like you said, and habitat destruction.
Oh yeah, big time. And so that kind of brings us into the 20th century, unless anyone has more to share about that time period.
I think that's about it, yeah.
Yeah, so this brings us into the 20th century, or the early 1900s, where the thylacine was extremely rare. And people began to capture them, specifically breeding pairs to send out to zoos, like zoos in Britain, and I don't know if there was any in North America or not, but
Really?
yeah, people were trying to save them.
Yeah, because in 1936, the species received official protection from the government.
Yes, and I'll get into that in a minute. Fun fact for you all, I guess it's not fun for the thylacine, but the last thylacine to die outside of Australia was in the London Zoo in 1931. And so in 1928, the Tasmanian Advisory Committee for Native Fauna recommended a reserve to protect remaining thylacines. I think this was like the beginning of we need to protect these animals, even though it came a little late. So the last known thylacine to be killed in the wild was in 1930 by a man named Wilf Batty, who was a farmer. And he had seen the thylacine roaming around his property for several weeks at that point. Not to defend farmers, but it should be noted that thylacines were killing chickens, so that was an issue. I'm not sure if it was such an issue that we needed to go and hunt every single one of them down. But it was, for farmers, it made sense.
I mean, maybe it's just us city folks just don't get it. Maybe it's a farmersonly.com type thing.
Yeah.
Now, I think it is interesting, Eli, that you've mentioned the last thylacine to die outside of Australia and the last one to die in the wild, because in my research, I only found the last known thylacine dying in captivity at a zoo in 1936.
Yeah, so this thylacine, which has become known as Benjamin, and we'll get into why he's called Benjamin, but apparently he was trapped in Florentine Valley by a man named Elias Churchill in 1933. And from there, he was sent to Hobart Zoo, where it lived for just 3 years. And he died on September 7th, 1936.
Yeah, the Hobart Zoo is also known as the Beaumaris Zoo, which confused me while I was reading some of the different sites giving this date. They're both the same thing. The Beaumaris Zoo and the Hobart Zoo are one and the same.
So yeah, Benjamin was believed to have died as a result of neglect because he was locked out of its sleeping quarters. And Tasmania, although I think it's rare that this happens, but it gets extremely hot during the day and then extremely cold at night, like freezing at night. And so it was locked out of its sleeping quarters and probably died due to exposure, which is frustrating.
I mean, it's crazy that they're like, all right, everyone, we got the last Tasmanian tiger. It's been protected, but we're just gonna forget to put it to sleep at night.
Yeah.
Oops a daisy.
Although there was photographs taken of Benjamin and 62 seconds of black and white footage filmed by a man named David Flea. And recently, I just sent this to Nash like a week or two ago. Someone colorized that footage.
Oh, that's cool. Dope.
Yeah, so I'll try to find that and send it to you guys and maybe repost it on the Instagram or something. But
I wonder if that's the video that I
I think
watched.
it is.
Because I don't know how much footage there is, but I know that the footage I saw where he opened his jaw is being filmed in
Yeah.
captivity. So it's probably
Mhm.
Benjamin.
Yeah, it's the only footage we have is 62 seconds of Benjamin. So I think that's the only video out there of a living thylacine.
Mhm.
So why is he called Benjamin? Well, here we go.
Yes, do tell, because I did not
Okay.
research this at all. I didn't even know his
There's some
name.
controversy over this. So, yeah, May of 1968, a man named Frank Darby, who claimed to be the head zookeeper at Hobart Zoo back in the day, said that the name given to that thylacine was Benjamin. However, this has been disputed by several people who worked at the zoo. So, a woman named Allison Reed, who was the zoo's curator at the time, and a man named Michael Sharland, who's the publicist for the zoo, who also worked there at the time Benjamin was there, denied Frank Darby, not only denied the name, but also denied that Frank Darby even worked at the Hobart Zoo. So I think it was
Interesting.
just some dude who was just trying to get his name into history. And look, mission accomplished. Now we're talking about him. But
Yeah.
at that time, there was debate over whether or not Benjamin was a male or a female.
Mhm.
Because, and see, this is why I was very interested to know about your pouch fact about these things, because the photographs and videos don't show a scroto or
That's the scientific term for it.
yeah, and it's harder to see female genitalia, so like we didn't know what it was, but Frank Darby claimed it was a male, obviously, if he's claiming its name was Benjamin. But
Interesting.
in 2011, a detailed examination of a frame of the footage confirmed it was a male. And so it's possible he could have been hiding his junk in the pouch, you
Yep.
know. So I thought that was extremely interesting.
I mean,
when you
it's
said that.
such a crazy little story too, of just some random guy just being like, "Oh yeah, his name's Benjamin," and everyone else just being
Yeah.
like, "I guess like we got other problems going on right now, buddy. It's the 30s, you know."
Yeah. And so another kind of interesting bit of this history is that when Benjamin died, it wasn't even declared to the public. The zoo thought they would find a replacement like within a matter of weeks, and no one would even notice that the thylacine was gone.
How? Why? It's the last one, and they
Well,
don't think anyone's gonna
well,
notice?
no one knew that. No one knew that at the time. I mean,
I see.
the last thylacine in captivity died only 5 years before. The last one killed in the wild was only 6 years before. And I mean, they were already rare by this point, so they sent people out to go find some, but it didn't. Obviously, they didn't find any.
They brought back a dingo and spray painted some stripes on it.
Yeah, I did want to say this about the conservation efforts. I was wrong earlier when I said that the first conservation efforts were in 1928. They actually started in 1901, but through deliberation and sometimes it's hard to get the government to do things, even in other countries. It didn't come into effect until 1936, 59 days before Benjamin died.
Oof.
So yeah, they were a little late on that one.
Just 35 years of hemming and hawing about this animal.
Yes.
Crazy.
But the sightings did not stop after this. And I'm not even talking about modern day sightings. I'm talking about 2 years after Benjamin's death. People were still reporting seeing thylacines out in the wild. Does anyone have any of this?
Mm-mm.
Yeah. So in a place called, Maabana in northwest Tasmania, 1938, a thylacine was reportedly shot and photographed. I don't have any. I didn't find the photographs about this online. I'm sure they're out there somewhere. Oh, you know who I think might have it? I'll tell you guys later. Michael Charland actually led an expedition shortly after Benjamin's death to try to find another thylacine.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was searching the western side of Tasmania, and I believe they found foot casts, or they were only able to find footprints.
Mm-hmm.
I have a quote from Michael Charland here, and he says, "It must be emphasized, however, that its failure to reveal itself more frequently is not necessarily indicative of approaching extinction. Great areas of this game country are devoid of human inhabitants, while others are sparsely inhabited." There was another sighting in 1957 where a photograph was taken from a helicopter, and our boy Bernard Heuvelmans weighed in on this and thought that it might be a thylacine. Of course, I think it's far away. In 1960, our boy Edmund Hillary, the
Oh
guy who
yeah,
climbed Mount Everest
yeah.
and searched for the Yeti, he actually led an expedition to try to capture one, and with a Disney film crew was following him around.
Oh dang.
Yeah, but they didn't find anything, so it didn't matter. In 1961, two fishermen caught one in a trap. It was two men named Bill Morrison and Laurie Thompson. But so in 1961, they caught one in a trap. I believe it was a net, and they said it had a rigid tail, but it only had one visible stripe on it. And they said that the noise it was making, because it was really mad that they caught it, was different from the barking of a dog. They said it looked like a dog, but it wasn't barking like a dog. And they released it back into the wild, and they said it didn't move fast. Once they released it, it just kind of like meandered off on its own pace, which is kind of interesting.
That's kind of strange.
And I could keep going on with these sightings forever, but I'm just going to list a number real quick. That the Department of Conservation and Land Management recorded 203 reports of sightings of the thylacine in Western Australia from 1936 to 1998. In fact, the thylacine wasn't even declared extinct until 1982 by the International Union for Conservation of Nature.
Really?
And then it wasn't even declared extinct by the Tasmanian government until 1986. So they honestly believed it was alive for a while.
Huh. Well, to make a quick statement, you talked about how when it was released, it just kind of meandered away. That is pretty much what a thylacine would do, because they were known for moving at a slow pace and generally stiff in movement.
Oh, interesting. I did not know that.
And that's what a lot of the more recent like video footage, like supposed video footage shows. They have like stiff movement and just kind of, they don't run like a dog would, basically. So that makes sense. It sounded weird when you said it to you, but it makes sense backing up some of what people have said.
Oh, wow. That's really cool, actually.
Can you tell me that number again of sightings that you...
203 reports of sightings.
And that's from years what?
1936 to 1998. So that's 62 years?
That's so interesting, just because... would you say that those sightings are confirmed? Like, they are thylacines?
I don't know. They're... I guess just reported sightings. I would imagine this is kind of in the same kind of scope of Bigfoot, to where,
Gotcha.
you know, they're like, yeah, I think this is what I saw. Of course, it's different for a thylacine because it's so distinct looking.
Mm-hmm. I just think it's funny because 200 is drastically different from the claimed 4,500 sightings that Neil Waters, who is the Thylacine Awareness Group of Australia founder, he says, if you start scratching around and doing some research, we've had over 4,500 sightings on the mainland since 1936.
Dang. Well, yeah, this comes from a different source, so
yeah.
You know, he could be, I don't know, it might be, again, similar to Bigfoot, to where there's different organizations getting reports.
Yeah.
And so this is just from one department.
I guess it depends too on what the criteria of the reports are, because you could say, well, we have 4,000 reports, and it's like, well, 3,000 where someone heard a weird sound in the dark by a bush by their house, and it's it's like someone saw something that looked like a dog, but it didn't have stripes, and someone saw something that looked like it, but it's like, all right, well, we got a 4,000. That's a big number to shift through. Let's just cut it down to 200 and call it a day.
Yeah.
I did want to go back really quick to one of the most intensive searches ever conducted for a thylacine, and this occurred between the years 1967 and 1973. It was conducted by zoologist Jeremy Griffith and dairy farmer James Malley. And so they, I don't know what it is with dairy and cryptids, because the Snallygaster also had an ice cream entrepreneur in there.
It's the power of 2% milk, baby.
So they did exhaustive searches of Tasmania's west coast. They installed automatic camera stations, and they even did like prompt investigations of reported sightings that they got. And so I don't think they really recovered anything. I'm not going to say that they recovered footprints because I didn't get that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
interesting. I mean, I'm sure they must have found at least some interesting stuff out there. That was what, 5 years?
Oh, I'm sure.
You said 68 to 7.
6 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
6 years. They must have found something.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, did anyone get anything about Ted Turner?
I don't think so. I don't see that name.
Did he try to buy a Tasmanian Tiger?
In a way. So in 1983, Ted Turner offered a $100,000 reward for the proof of the continued existence of a thylacine. And no one claimed it.
So it's still up for grabs?
I think they did. I think someone checked in like 2000 and it was gone.
Gotcha.
The offer has been expired. I wish, dude, I would be out there right now.
Right? Get that Turner TNT money.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah. So I'm going to kind of rattle off some of the video footage that I came across while I was doing my research. None of it is confirmed to actually be a thylacine. It's all under speculation. Kind of in the same way that Bigfoot evidence is. Evidence is usually blurry or too far away or too dark. I mean, there's a lot of variables when it comes to trying to capture a thylacine on footage because, I don't know if we mentioned this, but they're semi-nocturnal. They're mostly out during the night. So
yeah, I think I brought that up when we were talking about the dingoes.
Yeah, so So capturing footage during the day is kind of hard. They usually come out around dusk. But I have a small list here. One of the earlier clips was taken in 1973 by a couple named Liz and Gary Doyle while they were staying at a campground on the mainland in South Australia. This thing is real quick. It's footage that seems to show a dog-like creature run through the campground and kind of across the street, which appears to be reminiscent of a thylacine in both appearance and shape. And it apparently has the striping as well as its posture and unusual movements looking similar to a thylacine. But it's been criticized as showing like a regular fox or dog. And one of the problems with this whole running thing, that's kind of what a lot of the footage is of the thylacine running. But we mentioned earlier, there's not a lot of video footage of verified thylacine running or even at all. So we don't know what it looked like for a thylacine to actually run. I know earlier I mentioned that people claim that it is like stiff and kind of slow. Eli told that story about it meandering away. But there's no actual proof on video of what a thylacine looked like. So, and the footage was taken on the mainland, which the thylacine was thought to have gone thoroughly extinct around 2,000 years ago on that part of the continent. So that one's been picked apart and debated, and it doesn't really show very much, in my opinion. There's another one from...
Oh, you watched it?
Yeah, I've got all the clips here. The one that I just talked about, it's literally like just a couple seconds of this thing just running down
Are
the
these
street.
on like are on YouTube or something?
There's a lot on YouTube, yeah. So there's just a couple seconds of this thing running through. So that's the Doyle footage. The next one that I have is from 1995. An elderly couple captured video near Charlesville, Queensland. Camera was shaky because it was new and they didn't really know how to use it. This one is also very short, stabilized and cropped. This one is also very short. It's just a little creature walking through the grass, and I don't think it's very compelling. I mean, it's obviously some sort of animal, but I don't know.
It's just so blurry you can't really tell.
Yeah.
What year was this?
This was in 1995.
Do you know if it was like a digital or a film camera?
I do not know. Oh, yes, I do. Yes, I do. It was a film camera because part of the speculation is that the video was supposedly mostly taped over at some points. So it makes it inconsistent.
Oh, it's so blurry too.
Yeah. Now remember, what you're watching is the stabilized and cropped version. I have not seen the original ratio or anything like that.
The reason I ask if it was film or digital is that if it was shot on film, and if the film still exists, they could maybe rescan it and see if they can get more detail out of it. But I mean, if it's been taped over, then that's that, I guess.
So then the one that I have after that comes from 2008 in Western Victoria. This woman claims to have seen thylacines on her property numerous times, and it took her a year to get anything captured on video. Now this one, I don't know. I thought it was pretty believable at first, but then I kept reading, and the video is pretty grainy due to a combination of factors. It was in full zoom because she was far away. However, the creature seems to be like limping as if its like front right paw is injured. So a lot of people are saying that, oh, that's not just the thylacine walking. That's not its gait. It's an injured fox or something else. But I don't know. I mean, I'm not an expert on Australian animals, and I'm sure there's plenty of things that I've never seen before. But I don't know how to identify that.
The silhouette of it matches a thylacine though, like pretty well. I don't. It's probably the most convincing footage you've brought up so far.
Yeah.
Oh, look at him prancing around. Go, baby, go.
And then I don't even know if I want to send you this one because it's so bad. It's this other one from a residential area in the mainland, in Adelaide Hills. It shows, actually, before I tell you, picture the scene in Signs where the alien walks by that kid's birthday party. Now take that gap of space that the alien walks through and shrink it down to like 5% of that. And that is the open space that a supposed thylacine is seen crossing between trash cans.
Oh, wow.
Now, do you see what's interesting about this footage? Besides
it's the coloration, right?
The coloration, yes. This animal seems to be red/orange, which is not the color that most thylacines are supposed to be.
But it's I've heard thylacines described as golden, right?
Yeah, yellowish.
You know,
tan,
and so
sandy.
I don't know if I would describe this as orange. My first thought was that it looked kind of yellow, but it's really hard to tell because the sun's like shining straight on its back.
It's got the color of like a Labrador almost.
Yeah.
But the problem with this video footage is the fact that it is in a completely residential area. Like, this is not an open roam the wild type of thing.
The comments are pretty good.
Well,
too bad the only video camera was a humble potato.
there is something that I want to talk about, but there's one more kind of odd video out that is really kind of cool and picturesque. It's this guy who was just filming a sunset. His name is Paul Day. He was in South Australia on the York Peninsula. He was just filming at sunset when a dog-like creature just walked through the frame and made his way across the scene. At first, he thought it was a fox or a dog, but his later analysis makes him convinced that it could possibly be a thylacine.
Yeah, it's again the silhouette matches the thylacine pretty well.
Mm-hmm. And it kind of looks similar to that other video that we watched of the animal who looked like it was limping on its front right paw.
Right.
Yeah.
The other one was limping, but like when a dog limps, like it doesn't hop like that. These things are hopping.
It's hopping like a rabbit.
Like a marsupial.
That's the way.
Like a marsupial. Yeah.
Interesting.
And even the other one, you know, you're right. Its paw was up, but it was still doing that, you know, back front type bounce.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. But like you said, we don't have any verified footage of a thylacine running, so we don't really know.
Right. So if anyone listening to this is interested in kind of watching these videos, you can easily find them on YouTube, especially if you look up the Thylacine Awareness Group. They have a lot of and they repost a lot of evidence that comes out. You'll also probably find out about the Booth Richardson Tiger team. This is a father-son team of Joe and Greg Booth and a man named Adrian Richardson. Adrian Richardson says he has 26 years of experience in thylacine research. They went on a little excursion and put a bunch of motion detecting trail cameras in a bushland location after Greg claimed that he'd seen a Tasmanian tiger in 2015. And Joe claims to have had his own sightings in 1950s. So they put 14 cameras around an area which had exhibited thylacine activity, and their evidence is not even compelling all.
It's not compelling at all?
Not compelling at all.
No.
I'll send you the links. Basically, I don't know what the timestamps are, but they claim that one of the clips is a thylacine's nose coming up to the camera. And then they have another clip that they claim is a thylacine off in the distance. And man, I wish that this stuff was clearer. Because it's nothing. But they made a big deal out of it. They went and took their findings to the government and conservation agencies to try and help protect the thylacine if more were to be found. But they waited until September 6th, 2017 to hold the press conference and announce their findings. And this was one day before the 81st anniversary of the death of Benjamin.
Oof.
So they were trying to leverage that endangered species, what is it, awareness? Yeah. Endangered Species Awareness Day. I think they have on September 7th. Threatened Species Day is held in Australia each year on September 7th to commemorate the anniversary of the animal's death. So, but they've got a whole bunch of stuff online as well. And I don't even understand. This 4-minute video has a bunch of random stuff in it too. Like, I don't even know how to skip through it. But you'll come across them if you're doing your own kind of YouTube searching. But the most recent thing that I've been trying to say as I lead up with all of this other stuff is in 2019, the Tasmanian Department of Primary Industries, Parks, Water and Environment released a document saying that between September of 2017 and September of 2019, there have been 7 sightings of the Tasmanian tiger. Per the report, evidence of Tasmanian tigers were spotted as recently as July of 2019, when one man says that he found a footprint that he believes was a thylacine's on a hike up to Sleeping Beauty Mountain.
And can you tell me the years again?
2016 to 2019.
Oh, just 3 years. Oh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's kind of the quick course on YouTube videos that Jasmine found. I'm sorry that if you're listening to this now, you can't actually watch them, but you can find them.
Ooh, maybe we'll put a list together, like a reading list to watch while you listen to this episode.
Oh, yeah.
We say that, but there's no promises there.
Yeah. A very good note, Jasmine. There is no promises.
Although I did send all the links, so Eli, if you want to copy paste them, and save them somewhere, we can put them
up somewhere. Yeah.
Somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So
probably on our website, because we can't. Links aren't clickable on Instagram.
Nope.
So.
Or on Facebook, or probably on the website. Adding on to all these sightings, there are other efforts to get the thylacine back out into the wild. How, you may ask? Have you ever seen that movie Jurassic Park?
I feel like we just talked about that recently. Didn't we mention InGen in one of our previous episodes?
Tahoe
that
Tessie,
really controversial genetics lab.
Yeah. So the Australian Museum in Sydney began a cloning project in 1999.
Mm-hmm.
And they were using preserved genetic material from the 20th century to clone new Tasmanian tigers. They're attempting to.
Mm-hmm.
So I know it's still going, it's still active, and they've had their ups and downs as genetic material has become, it's not good. They've had new genetic material come out that other people have found, I guess. We could, if you wanted to get into specifics about that, there could probably be a whole nother episode on just the cloning program that I didn't want to bring into in this conversation, but just know that people are trying to revive the thylacine.
Mm-hmm. So what I found interesting was I did read an Australian Broadcasting Corporation article that was supposed to link me to another article claiming that they had successfully replicated the individual thylacine genes in 2002.
Ooh.
But when I clicked that link, the link was not found, and it was an australia.gov.au link. So whatever was there is no longer there, which I think is a little interesting.
Conspiracy.
But
Weird.
yes, according to this article from 2016 that I read, no further news of the project had been released since then.
Since 2002?
Yeah.
Whoa.
According to the 2016 article that I read. But again, the information from 2002 was not viewable.
Oh, because I think I was reading all this information on Wikipedia, and so they were saying it's still going. And I think I got a different organization. This is the Australian Museum in Sydney that were trying to do the cloning project.
Yes, they were trying to do the project, and my information comes from the Australian Broadcasting Corporation that
No, I don't know.
Nothing else happened in 2002.
Oh, I thought they were still.
Who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows what horrible hybrids they've been cloning in this span that we don't know.
Yeah. So if I also got this, so these people, if anything, probably have the most kind of research done on the thylacine. His name, Dr. Stephen Slightholm of the Thylacine Specimen Database Project, which is a 4-year research project to digitally photograph every surviving piece of thylacine specimen material. And I believe you can actually download that from their website. And it's not even that big. I think it's 2 gigabytes worth of information that you can just download and access thylacine information.
Mm-hmm.
So that exists. It would be nice if someone did that for Bigfoot.
Right?
Oh yes, I also have this. Professor Henry Nix of the Australian National University in the early 90s created a computer-generated map to correlate recent sightings, recent being in the 1990s, using a program called BioClim. And so he took this computer-generated map and compared this map with historical records of where thylacines had been trapped and hunted. And I guess another map of sighting reports, and they all coincided almost exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Hmm.
so I guess all this to say is that where thylacines are being reported now and throughout history is the same general locations as where it's been reported to be killed and hunted, where we knew they were. So,
Makes sense.
yeah.
Crazy.
So is it out there? Who knows?
I mean, that leads into the possible theory about thylacines.
What?
Which
So
is
we know that they seem to be extinct. Last one died in the 30s. But we've been getting random reports of seeing ones here and there. Especially like you said, overlaid a map of previous info about the thylacine population.
Mm-hmm.
So the theory goes that the thylacines, the Tasmanian tigers, are still extinct, but Australia is haunted by their ghost.
oh jeez.
And the sightings are their ghosts roaming around, reminding man of his follies of nature.
Honestly, who knows?
Hey, my sister says she saw the ghost of our family dog once.
I believe that.
So
I believe
who
that.
knows? Wouldn't that be nuts, dude? If the thylacine was extinct, but it was just the ghosts.
Just roaming around.
Well, unfortunately, there haven't been any sightings saying that it vanished into thin air. That would make me wonder.
Right.
Well, I mean, not that we can see, but people can't find it once they see it.
Yeah.
You never know.
It's true.
I think we're ready to move on over to pop culture with the Tasmanian Tiger.
Mm-hmm. Alex,
And,
I know you have something very exciting to share with us.
Oh yes, I have the epitome. The Tasmanian Tiger, has a big footnote in history, and so they immortalize the history and the character of this amazing animal with Ty the Tasmanian Tiger, a video game character from 2002.
Yeah.
It was, you see, years ago in the lost era we like to call the 1990s. There was a plague that affected America and the world at large, and it was called mascot characters. If you were a company, a restaurant, a toy line, a video game, you had a mascot and you threw it everywhere. And it hit its height in like the mid 90s, when Super Mario 64 came out, and everyone was like, "Oh, Mario's big." Sonic the Hedgehog showed up. Everyone was like, "Let's start making animal characters with shoes on." Kids love it. And it went on for over a decade until the early 2000s, when people just got sick and tired of cute, cuddly animal characters. But unfortunately, that's when Ty the Tasmanian Tiger showed up.
Oh no.
And you play as a little Tasmanian tiger who wears board shorts in Australia, and you get called upon the elementals to save Australia from some threat. You throw elemental boomerangs that have fire and ice powers.
Whoa.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm picturing
And
something
actually,
like Crash Bandicoot.
kind of, it's like it's more like a when it came out they called it a Mario 64 knockoff.
Oh.
So it's like more like a open world platformer, where Crash is kind of one dimensional, like you go forward, you go back, but it's somewhat 3D.
Yeah.
This one you could jump up platforms, walk around, throw boomerangs. Oh, and the music's awesome. So I was looking it up, and I was like, oh, I'll listen to the score, and that music is vibing.
Vibes.
But yeah, that's go check it out. Oh, but it's getting remastered for the Nintendo Switch
No
this
way.
year.
Is it really?
Yeah.
I
Apparently,
was
people
rich.
love this game.
Dude,
so
are we
it's
gonna do a Cryptid Campfire playthrough?
yeah. We're getting Jasmine a Switch. We're setting up a Twitch channel, and we're having her play nothing but video games for 24 hours straight.
It's hard to find a Switch. I mean, I'm not saying I would get one if I did find one, but like they're out of stock on all the regular websites, like actual like Target, Best Buy, Walmart, all that stuff. They're out of stock. They're only on like eBay and selling apps for more than they should be going for.
Oh, jeez.
I got something heralding from the 1990s as well.
Ooh.
It's a novel called The Hunter, written by a woman named Julia Lay. It was actually her first novel, and it has since been converted. Is that the word? Adapted into a movie starring Willem Dafoe. Yeah, and I have something from 2002. It's a book written by a couple named Marianne and Steve Isham. It's a children's picture book about how the thylacine got its stripe according to Aboriginal legends.
Oh.
Ooh.
And it's called Tiger Tail. And while I think it's out of print now, I did find a little plot summary on Wikipedia if you would like me to share that.
Yes, please do. Want to know if it's anything like Dragon Tales?
I don't think so. But so the story starts with the tiger who's all golden, without his stripes, singing. And so the tiger walks through the forest down to the river, singing the entire time. He passes the platypus, meets the bunyip, who tells him to go away and stop singing. So the bunyip's not a nice guy. So as the tiger leaves the river, he meets Conga, who also tells him to stop singing. I'm not sure who Conga is, but finally,
Maybe a gorilla.
Gorillas don't live in Australia, bro.
What? He was visiting.
Anyways, finally, Great Bird tells him to stop singing, and as Tiger goes on his way, he notices a bushfire approaching and goes back to the river to summon all the other animals. But the bunyip, Conga, and Great Bird all desert him. So Tiger runs back and forth from the river to the fire until the fire is extinguished, but the tiger has lost his voice and the soot leaves stripes on his back.
That's so sad.
Yeah.
He completed the hero's journey. Left the world he once knew, entered the new one, changed, and comes back with some greater knowledge.
I want to know why they wouldn't let him sing.
I don't know.
Let him sing, man. Let him use his voice.
Maybe he wasn't good.
Maybe.
Yeah. Maybe he was singing something just like, they're like, we're sick and tired of you singing Achy Breaky Heart.
I think that brings us to the highlight of this tome.
The ending.
Yeah.
Yay.
The what?
That's right, everybody. Because he said, and that brings us to the highlight, and that's the end.
Oh. No, I think what he's referencing is the Colosseum battle.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get ready to attend the Cryptid Coliseum.
Whoop, whoop, whoop.
From the dusty tome of Cryptid Campfire, the tale of the Tasmanian Tiger in Cryptid Coliseum. We see a vast, sweeping outback, a land of unknown mystery. The Coliseum sits like a massive marble tomb against the red desert. The faint call of the didgeridoo is heard in the distance. The sun shines bright above, and the white heat illuminates the rabid audience. It's time for the cryptid battles to begin! The gate opens. And out of the shadows emerges the Tasmanian Tiger. The animal driven to extinction by man is back, and it's mad as hell.
Yeah.
It snaps and it snarls as it approaches the center arena. A giant metal gate descends from above, trapping the Tasmanian Tiger inside. A trapdoor opens from the center arena and a platform raises. And out of that platform we see the bunyip.
Oh no.
The ancient creature of Australia's legends faces off against a creature from its past, here in Cryptid Coliseum.
Wild.
It's the rage in the cage, extinction elimination deathmatch. These two forces of nature square off, and we ask you listening, what is their fate? Let us know who wins in this cryptid battle on the Instagram post. Coming soon.
Wow, that was pretty epic.
Wow. That's funny that you chose the bunyip to pair him up with, and Eli just told that legend about
And
the
the
bunyip
bunyip.
not letting him sing.
Mm-hmm. A little backstory that was
Yeah, right.
completely unplanned.
Yeah, I know, right? Funny how that worked out.
But yeah, what do you guys think? A creature from Australia's past versus a creature of its legends in Australia.
I don't know.
I don't know, boy.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's a lot to take in, and you should let us know on the Instagram post that we post who you think would win.
Yes. And if I want to find you wonderful people on the Instagrams, how do I do that?
Well, if you want to find more about me, Alex Daikaiju, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Alex Daikaiju, Alex Daikaiju. And I had a list for my sources, but we tried to record this episode a week ago, and I lost it.
Oh, no.
So, but I'm sure Jasmine and Eli have plenty of the sources I used, and they're going to tell you right about now.
Yeah.
Yes. If you want to find me online, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram as well. My name is Jasmine Maywith, JasmineMaewith. My information today came from Mysterious Universe, National Geographic, AustralianMuseum.net, USA Today, Australian Broadcasting Corporation, the Pine Barrens Institute, Time, YouTube user Nurchin.
Whoa, Pine Barrens, huh?
Yes.
Sick. Shout out to Mr. Adam Benedict.
Mm-hmm. Good friend of the podcast.
Good friend, yes.
And if I wanted to find you, sir?
You can find me at the Eli Watson on Instagram only.
Oh, but what do you do in your free time when you're not having one Instagram account?
Well, I'll tell you my sources first, my friend.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I'll edit this around.
Mm-hmm.
My sources for today are Wikipedia, CNN.com, thedodo.com, and the Washington Post.
Hey, the
but
dodo.
I'll tell you what I'm doing when I'm not just running one singular Instagram account. You can follow the Campfire at Cryptid Campfire on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I basically run all three of those. You can visit cryptidcampfire.com where you can get your official Cryptid Campfire t-shirt. And you can subscribe.
Ooh, yeah.
You can subscribe and become a creepy camper on our Patreon, where for $5 a month you get access to exclusive episodes, images, videos, and much more soon to come. Thank you, everybody, for joining us this week. We'll see you.
Yeah.
We'll probably see you later this week with maybe another tall tale. I'm not sure.
You never know. Time is an illusion.
It really is.
But we'll see you next week when we're talking about another killer marsupial.
Bye.
Goodbye.